I got my cell cameras running. It has a GPS coordinate of where that buck is, and okay, it's more than likely in this area because it was on this camera. Man, we've kind of taken, it's not, I don't know if you call that hunting anymore.
That's Josh Telker from Before the Echo podcast, primarily a public land hunter who travels all around, and why he is scaling back technology. He's stepping away from some of the things that make whitetail hunting admittedly easier. And why is he doing it? On purpose.
They did like a study on a 100-acre farm, and somehow they came up with the conclusion that, cell cameras, or cameras in general, only caught about 5% of the deer movement. A lot of people just live and die off of them. You're only getting this, 5% of the picture of what's going on.
In this episode of the Whitetail Podcast presented by Moultrie, we're talking about cell cameras, we're talking about traditional archery equipment, and we're talking about how some of the hunters that seemingly online make things look easy, maybe struggle more than you think. Hey Josh, I had a really crappy season. I felt like I scouted a lot. I hunted a lot. It was still just not what I wanted or what I expected.
Yeah, welcome to deer hunting. Dude, it's not, like, most of the time it sucks. And that's a bad part about social media. We get access to all these great hunters all the time. You see Andy May and Johnny Stewart kill $5 a year, and it's like, as egotistical as us hunters are, like, you're not those guys.
This isn't meant to be anti-technology. This is a conversation with my good friend Josh Telker. Here we go. Josh, welcome to the Whitetail Welcome back to the Whitetail Podcast.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be fun to catch up. And we were just chatting here. It's like the seasons, Illinois. By the time this goes live, Illinois will be closed, and then we've all pretty much probably had a one-track mind of hunting. And now that season's wrapping up, it's a transition. So how are you handling the wind down of season personally?
Oh, I don't know. I always get this. Well, like right now, you got some cameras running, and like yesterday, my buddy and Brad and me, we kind of have shared cameras, and we got a picture of a nice one on camera that we really hadn't seen for a long time, and he's like, "Oh, this guy made it, man!" And he's like in a bachelor group of bucks already right now, and we were both like, "Man, we can't wait for October,"
Yeah.
So there's always I don't know, after season depression, I guess that's probably the wrong word for it, but
it's a refocus and a reshuffle for sure. And like for a lot of people, it goes to scouting or it goes to planning for next year, maybe a trip or maybe working on different projects or watching playoff football. Probably one of those combinations.
Yeah. Well, I live just outside of Bloomington, so that's been more of interest to me this year than more normal. I usually don't watch much college football, but this year with IU being good, I paid a little bit more attention to it, but and then a little bit this late season just fell apart for me. I was supposed to go to Arkansas and hunt late season, and that fell through because the guy we were going to go with, his brother ended up coming into town and unexpectedly as a surprise, so we ended up kind of just letting him do that with his brother, and then so then we're like, oh, we'll go to Illinois late season now,
Yeah.
And
capped out.
like, yep. Literally we were talking about it that morning, and then all of a sudden we saw the Facebook post from the Illinois DNR.
Yeah.
That they
I think that may have been the first time that's ever happened. It's for sure the first time that's ever happened that I personally can recall, which is kind of interesting.
I agree. I've hunted there a handful of times and never have. I mean, it's always been late season too. We always just go there because they're open later, and I've never had a problem with it. I've always just been able to run into Rural King and grab a tag. So I don't know. There's a lot of people up in arms about the amount of non-resident hunters, so maybe they have a point of some in some states. But
yeah, well, I imagine it increased across the board. I recorded an episode with Kevin this week with the Deer Hunter podcast.
Oh yeah,
and this came up in conversation for his show, and I'll ask you, how many non-resident Michigan deer tags do you think they sold in 2024?
Oh, dude, I wouldn't even know how to guess. I bought a bunch of them. I went up there and
you have to guess. Let me try to pull it up here. So I'll give you a hint. I'll give you a hint to this. There was 604,000 total license sales for hunting in Michigan in 2024.
I was gonna guess 500,000 license sold.
Yeah, it's close. So how many people are driving across state lines to go hunt Michigan?
Michigan?
Yeah.
Let's say 50,000.
That's a. I mean, so Illinois caps there's at or has capped there's at 25. So
Yeah, but I'm just thinking Michigan's cheaper, and I don't know. That was my guess.
okay,
50,000.
24,000,
Okay.
23,000 some change. Yeah, which I don't know. It was probably more than what I had more than what
I
I
just
had
was
pictured in
so
my
I
head.
was thinking like I don't know where I've gotten this from. It was probably on like Google's AI or something, but like 4% of the deer that are killed are from non-residents. Yeah, that's the average in the nation.
hmm
And so I was just kind of basing that off my guess off of maybe it's higher, 10% in Michigan, and that's where I got that.
Yeah,
But
which
anyway,
which is interesting. I mean, Iowa obviously sells 6,000 flat,
yeah.
which I want to see really quickly how many non-resident tags are available for Kansas. Do you know that by chance?
No, I don't.
Tags are
No, I think
sold.
it's
Let's see if
it
this
might
is
be
we're
it's
putting
more than
trust in chat.
6,000.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, we're putting the trust in the Chat GPT right now.
Mhm.
Um, total for non-resident permits for the state of Kansas is roughly 21,000.
Okay.
Which actually, that's more than what
Yeah.
that would have been more than what I would have guessed. Honestly,
Yeah, that's, if they would limit that to 6,000, they would be in the Iowa ballpark where you can't go there every
yeah,
4 or 5 years.
yeah, yeah. It'll be yeah. There's all sorts of um, white-tailed diplomats right now that are trying to solve the
Yeah,
world's
yeah,
problems,
yeah.
which I think is fun and it has some level of healthy discussion. I think there's a it really shows how much opinions vary um, amongst hunters, like even within the community, right? Like your
Yeah.
opinion may be different on some stuff than what mine is. Probably more close, across you and I. But then it's like you go down to someone else or you read it on Facebook and it's like, holy cow, we're like kind of living in two different worlds.
Yeah. Well, I think the problem is most of those conversations stop on the internet. Nobody ever goes to any of their, DNR meetings or I mean, it's like, we're pretty loud in amongst ourselves, but I don't know
Yeah.
how many people actually, say anything whenever to the right people,
Yeah.
other than on
Yeah.
your forums online.
Yeah. That's probably a good challenge for everyone. Instead of
Mhm.
just talking about it, try to like nothing's going to change if you're really that frustrated. But
Yeah.
what do you think the state of hunting is like just across the board, man? Like, I guess I'll just rip the band-aid off because I respect a lot of the things that you do. You shot a buck with traditional archery equipment this past year. Like, I feel like in a world where everyone wants to make it easier, I feel like you make the conscious decision to make it harder, and I respect that. So, what
Mhm.
is your diagnosis of the state of whitetail hunting? And I want to refine that to like the corn belt or the rust belt or however
Yeah.
like the swath.
Yeah. So I hunted in, all over the country this year from the South all the way up to Michigan, and, uh, I feel like things maybe are trending in the right direction a little bit this year. I There was a couple years there where I saw just a lot of like hunting public land, just a lot of things that were immature or just I don't know what the best word is for it, but just like some people just nonsense things going on, just being disrespectful and heard some stories I didn't like hearing and this year it just seemed like things were a little more calm out there to me. It just and I think this pendulum might be swinging a little bit of this the big buck craze, which I mean I'm a part of. I like shooting big bucks just as much as anybody, but um, the attitude of let's do whatever we can, regardless of other people's uh, you know time or thoughts, might be coming to a head a little bit. I think probably whether we like it or not, and obviously everything can be improved, but like we're probably like in the golden age of deer hunting a little bit. Um, as far as like good equipment, lots of deer still, at least in most areas, and the means to go and travel and do these different things. Um, because the the ability to or the means to to go to a couple different states a year for guys, or even just one state, or go to out west on an outfitted hunt or something like that. It just seemed like, back 20 or 30 years ago, most people maybe just either didn't have the education available to do that, or didn't have the means to do that. And right now we seem like we're in this little bubble where
Yeah.
that's going well for people. Now, obviously, that's not a perfect system right now, where we got a lot of complaining about overcrowding. We got the social media versus the keep everything to yourself debate going on internally. I heard I think it was your podcast where in Ohio the amount of residents that are disapprove of hunting went up by like 5% or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was basically five were in favor, 10% were against hunting, and then the rest were indifferent. I don't remember. Sounds bad because we definitely talked about it with Mike
Yeah,
Rex. I can't remember if there was an increase, from the first survey period to the next survey period, but um, yeah, I mean that's a fair thing. I feel it's human behavior to always think that things are inherently always just getting harder. Like, oh, it's harder to
yeah,
buy a house. Oh, it's harder to do this, or like, But I also feel our expectations also increase. Like a starter home, in the 60s
yeah.
or 70s was probably a 2 bedroom, 1 bath, 900 square feet. And now people are like, oh, I need a 4 bed, 2 bath, and it's 2,500 square feet or 2,200 square feet. It's
Oh,
like, well, our desire of what is basic has also gone up.
oh, dude, I mean, that's a great point. For one, like I live in the house my dad was grown up in, and this was my grandparents' like dream home, right?
Hmm.
Like they lived in town in a little tiny house with 5 kids before they bought this big house, which is a which is a 2 bath, 3 bedroom ranch, 1 story home, you
Hmm.
know? And I mean, there'd be the poorest person in the country would not live in this house with 5 kids. You know what I mean? Right now.
Right. Yeah.
So you're completely right. Like,
Yeah.
um, and then deer hunting, that correlates to deer hunting, for sure. We are a little harder to please now than probably we used to be. I mean, we definitely are. I
Yeah.
mean, used to I mean, my uncle killed a deer that scored, well, I got it right here. Back in the 90s, this is like 92.
Uh-huh.
Um, that's me right there with
Oh,
my
that's
uncle.
cool, man.
Yeah. That deer scored like 155, right?
Uh-huh.
And dude, that thing they put that in like the state of Indiana hunting magazine because it was a giant. And now like that deer gets passed in Indiana on some places.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Where do you fall, as a guy that puts out a lot of content on
yeah,
like the movement of like keep it to yourself, or like do you ever grapple with that? Like, man, it's
yeah.
really awesome to share that. And in watching your videos, like I think you do a great job of showcasing it in a positive fashion, like integrating your family and like showing the full experience. Um, but like do you ever grapple with that?
Oh yeah, all the time. I mean, I well, like my buddy Jason, from his podcast or his channel's Samco Tradbo. But anyway, he quit putting his hunts online. He just does his gear stuff and whatever, just his thoughts. And I struggle with it a little bit. I think the the best explanation that I heard, or justification for it, Clay Newcomb, I heard him talk about it on a podcast. And he kind of said like, "Hey man, if we quit putting this stuff on social media, stop telling our story um, on the internet, it's like someone is gonna tell it for us, and it's not going to be in the light we want it to be in. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely some bad apples when it comes to hunting influencers and some of the things that people do for clicks or the shock factor. That disgusts me a little bit. Um, but at the same time, I think we're probably focusing on the minority of folks, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, those in the internet age right now, those shock factors, and I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but just like people doing kind of questionable things with wildlife and for clicks and using, you know, kind of ridiculous weapons or just things like that. Like I don't that sometimes that puts a bad taste in my mouth, but like it's it's the minority of folks, and I think it's hard to get past that. but it's probably true, you know?
Mhm. Yeah. Do you think with like in terms of content and it's interesting because it's almost like this paradox of hunting's getting too easy, but then in the same breath, in the same sentence, they also say hunters are way better now than what they used to be because of the information. And so it's
Yeah.
like, is it the combination of those two is making like where I'm trying to articulate a question, but it's more of a point, and I want to get your feedback about it.
No, I know what you mean. I think that's another point I forgot to bring up when you said, like, being in the golden age of hunting. I think if a guy wants to shoot a deer that's over 150 inches, right now is probably the easiest time to do that, you know? But, on the other swinging the other way, it's like, it's not always good that things are easier, right? Like, whenever you whenever you bring more convenience into your life, like not having to scout, or let's use this AI scouting as an example. Like, okay, I'm just going to use this AI software now that tells me, hey, this is more than likely where they're bedding. This is more than likely where they're feeding. This is where I would set up on this wind, whatever.
Hmm.
I don't know how that stuff works. I've heard it's out there now. It's like, okay, you do that for you, but now you lose the ability to do that on your own,
Yeah,
and I don't think that's good. I think, like, as humans, we got to have some type of um challenge or something
that's what
to
makes it rewarding, right?
yeah, exactly. Because I think eventually that's not sustainable. I mean, I don't. You just turn into a dang worm. Like, like, what the heck are you even good for? If you
Yeah,
can't, if everything just does it for you. If it tells
yeah.
you, hey, I got my cell cameras running. I got this other AI software that tells me where, um, the bedding area is and the feeding where they like to feed this time of year, and it can tell what trees are dropping what, acorns,
Hmm.
um, based on data from the state or whatever, and then all of a sudden then it's links to your cell cameras, and it knows what buck is in the area, and it has a GPS coordinate of where that buck is, and okay, you know it's more than likely in this area because it was on this camera on that's located here on this particular time. It's like, okay, man, we've we've kind of taken, it's not, I don't know if you call that hunting anymore, and that's just my opinion. Like,
Yeah.
it's up to the states to decide what is and isn't, but
Well, what motivated you to go hunt more with traditional archery equipment and also dial back the amount of cell cameras as well?
yeah, traditional archery equipment, I've been hunting with a trad bow for a long time. Like,
Yeah.
um, I've killed probably 15 or so animals with them now,
Oh,
but, like,
I didn't realize you've shot that many deer with trad
oh
equipment.
yeah, I've shot a pig with them, turkey, and a bunch of deer. I've killed, I think, 4 bucks on my wall, or from a traditional bow, but um, I mean, I don't have a real good answer to why I started using traditional archery. I used to really like Fred Eichler on the Outdoor Channel.
Fair.
I like to watch him a lot, and he just kind of inspired me to try it. I even, like, bought the same bow he had, the Hoyt Dorado is what it was. Whenever back in 2010 or whatever year that was. But so that's I just got a kick out of that, and really um what drove it to, like, a deeper, like, back then I just did it, I'd kill a buck or I'd kill a buck with my compound, then I'd go shoot a doe with a long recurve bow. But um and I did kill a couple bucks back then. But I was going to go to a buddy of mine killed a real big buck with his bow, and he wanted to get it scored by Pope and Young. And there was a guy named by the name of Alan Clark that lives a county next to me here. He's a Pope and Young scorer, and my buddy called me. He's like, "Hey, I'm going to go over to this guy's house to get my buck scored. You want to come with me?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So we went over there, and we walk into his house, and he has, like, just about every animal you could think of, from sick and black-tailed deer to um, moose to an alligator, just like a whole plethora of things on the wall, a bunch of antelope, mule deer, whitetails. And I was like, holy cow, And then we go down in his basement. He has, like, traditional gear everywhere. And come to find out, he killed every single one of them with a trad bow.
Wow.
And, I was like, man, that's cool. And I just got that feeling like that's how I want to try it.
Hmm.
And that's kind of where it where I really got to going on it was, um, whenever I met Alan. And just seems like everybody that I really think is doing something special is using a trad bow. It just puts it on another level in my mind. So
I think
um,
anyone that disagrees with that's crazy.
yeah, and I don't. There was a number of years before I had kids where I just used a trad bow. Like I'd go out of state, I'd have a trad bow with me, and um, I don't do that anymore. And there's like a little bit of me that I don't like that part of it for me. But like I just don't have. It is significantly harder to kill one with a trad bow, like 10 times harder, probably.
Is it
And
10 times more rewarding? That's my
yeah, it
question.
probably is. I think
Yeah.
so. It's just right now with in my stage of life with two boys, and I just don't get the chance to. I don't have the time like I used to. I don't have the time to one shoot, and I don't have as much time to hunt. Um, so I mean, used to I could, I go out to Colorado elk hunting. I could go out for I would go out for two different trips out there in September. I'd go out one opening week and then I'd go out the end of September, and I just can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of my trips are, instead of 10 days, they're 4 or 5 days if I'm lucky. So recently I've just kind of been like, be content with shooting with a compound, and I still get fired up about it.
Yeah.
And just know that, hey, I'm doing this. Do I like it as much? Yeah, probably. I probably do. But also, like, you know, I get time to come back to my family because I can tag out easier, and they don't care. They don't give a crap what I shoot a deer with. So, but I could see once my boys are older and it's just me again, me and my wife again, like I could probably see myself just using the trad bow. In Indiana, we only get one buck too, so you know, it's it's not that big a deal here in Indiana.
Yeah. What about the cell camera side of things? Because I feel like right now the current trajectory, and I mean, I'll admit it. Like every year, I run more cell cameras.
Yeah,
Because it's like it feels like no matter how many you have, like there's always, I don't know. It's fun to run them. It's fun to see what's going on.
yeah.
Um, and to go the opposite direction, it seems to be like a micro trend within the space. What was your motivation with that? Just to like kind of get more to the roots of.
Yeah, a little bit, and there was a big part of it that I was just tired of all the specifically on public land. I'm not talking about private land. I think what you can do, I think you should be able to do whatever you want on private land, as far as how you want to hunt. Um, I th- the public land thing, man, it was just in some areas, man, it was just becoming a problem. Like I went into one hub. First of all, they put a tower where I hunt at, a cell tower. So like the last couple of years, you can have cell service now, anywhere in the hills. Um, and there's one area that I hunt, and I knew there was other people that hunted it, over the years. But might be one or two other cameras in there, and I'd have a camera in there, and that was the end of it. And I'm talking about thousands of acres. And and I went into this spot that me and my buddies have killed bucks in there before. And, like I go check my regular SD card camera that I just let soak down in there over a scrape. And um, as I'm walking in, it's like, oh, there's a cell camera up here now. And then all of a sudden you walk down the ridge a little farther, it's like, dang, there's another one here. And then I go down in the hub and there's two down there. And then I go up on the other ridge and there was like a couple up there, and there was like end up being six cameras right there in this little area. And I was like, gosh, man.
That is crazy.
Um, and then, I'm talking to people from Iowa, and they're littered on public land around there. And I think like, and I didn't use cell cameras this season, and that's a little bit of a lie. Like I had two running, and I had a Kansas tag, and we had a piece of private we could hunt on in Kansas, and we had two cameras there. We ended up not even hunting the private this year in Kansas. Just there wasn't anything there. Um, it was just a little cattle ranch that didn't really have much bunch on it, but we had cameras on it. But anyway, um, yeah, I one thing that I will say, I did put a few out after season here, just to see if I could find some deer for next year. I really missed the camaraderie and the fun, like you said, the funness, I guess, for lack of a
Yeah.
better words, of running cell cameras. Like, I have a couple of group chats, hunting buddies, and they're all like, "Oh, look at this deer I got a picture of," and I'm like, I don't got anything to share with you guys, but um, so I think I've one thing that I saw, and I was going to look this up before I got on here, and I can't, I forgot to, but there was a study that just came out. Maybe you saw it, Jake, but they did like a study on a 100-acre farm, and somehow they came up with the conclusion that cell cameras, their cameras in general, only caught about 5% of the deer movement throughout the farm. And I think that's something that a lot of folks don't realize, that like cell cameras, whatever you want to say, like um, a lot of people just live and die off of them,
Yeah.
and you're only getting this 5% of the picture of what's going on, and that's probably pretty accurate, and we kind of take it as 100. This is what's happening in the
Pretty darn
woods right
close to
now.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as a hunter, you got to get out of your mind that um, these cameras are telling you everything you need to know, and realize like, okay, I'm only seeing 5% of these things. I probably shouldn't put as much weight as I do into them.
Yeah.
Me and Johnny Stewart were at the ATA show last weekend, and Johnny's obviously one of the best hunters in the country as
Yep.
far as a public land guy. And he's like, for me, if a deer is on camera during daylight hours one time a week, that deer to me is probably living right there somewhere close.
Yeah.
Um, and I think a lot of people just would see a deer on camera once a week and be
Oh,
like,
he's random. Yeah.
yeah,
He
yeah, he's
might be
not
coming
there.
through.
I
Yeah.
can't get him. And when in reality, Johnny was like, he's probably coming through there every day somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's one thing we have to get in our heads. And then I think that's why people get so obsessed with trail cameras, and they have to buy 70 of them. I know guys that have 70
That's a lot.
trail cameras.
I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet.
Yeah. Jake,
But
you probably know people like that. I
oh,
guarantee you do.
I know a lot of people like that. Yeah.
And you get this obsession where like, oh, I'm gonna put this here, and I'm gonna know everything, and then I'll put this here, and then all of a sudden you got you know dozens and dozens of them. Where in reality, it's like maybe if you could just take it as a 5% increase in your knowledge, and then use your woodsmanship skills from there. And that's kind of why I did it this year, was like just a reset for myself, and like figure out where I stand with them a little bit, and figure out how I want to use them. For me,
Scale 1 to 10. How much did you miss him this year? Where you're like
oh, that's a good
opening the
question.
app. You're like, oh well, oh yeah, I can't look.
So as I get older, like camaraderie is more and more important to me as a hunter. And I really did miss like my buddy Patrick. He loves cell cameras. He loves cameras, and he like every day he would update me on what's on the cameras, his cameras down in Tennessee and stuff, Illinois. And I did miss having that intel, like 1 to 10. I probably a 6. I probably missed him as a 6.
Yeah.
If I would be fine if they outlawed them. But I also I think I have a good enough grasp on them that I can use them without
Being
it
too
being a
reliant.
detriment to my hunting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another thing, is like we are, well, you saw it in Kansas, Utah. Like we can't control ourselves, right? Like people can't have they don't have self control at all, and
Nope.
that's what happens is we abuse them because you put 40 of them over a water hole, or you got a dozen of them on a single ridge, and all of a sudden the DNR is getting more and more complaints from the public about this being a problem on public land, and they end up stepping in, and because they feel like it's hindering the experience or doing something to the wildlife, and whatever, you can argue those sides, but it just is what it is. And then the state decides, hey, I'm getting enough pushback, and people are aggravated about this enough, now let's just outlaw them, and now nobody can use them.
Yeah.
um
Did you see any cameras on public in Kansas when you were out there?
no.
Okay. I don't know if
Were you just
people.
thinking people would still just do it?
Yeah, I didn't know if there's any rule breakers out there.
I didn't see a single camera, and it was
Really
pretty nice, like walking around the woods and not
looking
um
around, up
yeah,
high,
just
down low. Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
some states, like Wisconsin, they're pretty bad up there. You run by a scrape, and you probably just start, looking around and finding the
Yeah.
trail camera that's over it. But no,
What's
in
your
Kansas, I never ran into camera in Kansas, and then we hunted the South. Never
Mhm.
ran into camera in the South either. It was legal down there.
Interesting.
Um, I think we had,
Were there any deer in the South?
oh, there was that, as far as deer numbers seen, that was the that hunt, I saw more deer than any other hunt I've ever been on.
Wow.
I probably buck wise, other than I hunted a farm in Kansas one time that was really good. Saw more bucks there for sure, but um, in the South, I saw more bucks down there than anywhere I've ever hunted. Now, don't get me wrong, they weren't giants, but as far as
Midwest
deer
bucks.
numbers,
Yeah.
we were seeing, there was four of us hunting, and we saw. I mean, there was guys that saw 20 deer in a sit
Wow.
on public land.
Wow. That's fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite non-resident? Obviously, you live in Indiana. What is your favorite state? And maybe that is camaraderie. Maybe you're going to say Michigan and surprise everyone.
No, no.
What is your favorite state to travel to? And I'll let you paint the picture of why it is.
Yeah, it's Kansas for me. And to paint the picture for you, it's just a lot different than where I'm from.
Yeah.
Like, you got open country, you can see a lot, and it's just like a real nice change for me to where, like, the deer I killed this year, I spot and stalked it in a CRP field. Like, you're probably not going to get through that in Indiana.
Yeah.
Definitely not on public land, but that it's Kansas for me.
What's your least favorite you've been to? And I hate to be negative, but I
Kentucky,
gotta know. Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Why?
It's personal reasons, like, just I've killed quite a few deer down there, or bucks down there, but they've always just been like with a longbow, and just deer that I don't even think I took pictures of them. Just going down there and hunting for fun. But dude, there's snakes there, there's chiggers, there's ticks. It's always warm. I've gotten chewed out down in Kentucky more than any place else in the country.
By the locals?
Yeah, just by I knocked on the door one time, and this lady was just mad that I was there. I just have had some bad experiences in Kentucky. I walked into a piece of public one time, and this is Eastern Kentucky, not to stereotype the type of people there, but you can look up, like, on YouTube, poorest areas in the country, and some of these areas are where I was at. But um, like, I remember walking over this bridge. You had to go over this bridge to get into the public, and on the public parking lot, someone had, like, shoved a fork or a pitchfork in the ground, and they had like a Chucky doll head sitting on top of the pitchfork where it was through the head, and they had painted blood all over and stuff. And it just was like, sometimes it's crazy things happen down there.
Did you proceed to hunt that area, or did you just turn around and leave?
No, I left there. I was already like
It kind of
not
worked.
feeling it right there, like,
Yeah.
just some of the houses I drove by and stuff, and I was like, um, there's like a guy standing on the porch watching me drive in, and then you get down to the parking lot, and that's there. And um, yeah, Kentucky would be I'm probably going to go there this year. I'm going to spend some time there, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk a little bit about, postseason scouting. Maybe someone listening felt like I feel like a lot of hunting comes down to preparation, and I don't know. Like, obviously, if you listen to podcasts, like, a lot of it is preparation and planning, but I almost feel like people feel like they're being productive by just listening to a podcast about how to be, more efficient, and then you still have to go out and do the work. But let's say for someone that, you know, explain to me, like, I've never postseason scouted, and I'm like, Josh, I just usually just go out and hunt in October and November, and whatever happens, happens. But I realize this is an opportunity to learn. What are the key things that you want to tell me?
Okay. So I think, um, firstly, you have to find areas where you think other people haven't been or don't frequent. And there's all kinds of ways of doing that, and mostly it's going to be go and check out the parking lots, and just kind of assess how much pressure there is. Is there a bunch of trail cameras? Is there a bunch of stands? Is there trash everywhere? Is there bottles laying everywhere? And just, you can kind of tell if this area gets hunted a lot. Um, so you got to find those areas. Make sure you got all your layers on your Onyx or whatever mapping software flavor you like. Make sure you have all the public land access, whether there's weehaws or walk-in areas, public land walk-in areas. Make sure you got your federal lands on, your state lands on, all that stuff. You're not missing any properties that other people might be missing. Um, And then, the reason you scout, if after season, is all the sign from season um is kind of left over from season. You don't have growth from the summertime covering it all up. One thing that I would caution you about during, January, February, March scouting is you really have to um, assess the sign you're seeing. Like, okay, this is super fresh. Is there a reason that a deer is here right now? And is there a reason that he would not be here during season? Right? So, like, if you're seeing a lot of just beat down trails, but you're not seeing any rut activity, like you're not seeing any scrapes, or you're not seeing any rubs, you might not be. You may want to kind of disregard these beat down trails and whatnot, because maybe there's a food source that they're eating right now that they're not going to be even be paying attention to during season. So you want, whenever you're scouting right now, you want to make sure you're seeing sign that lines up with, the time of year that you're going to be hunting. And then what I would tell people is find as many spots as you can and kind of categorize those into different time frames of your season. Right? You may find some spot that is, near some doe bedding that, there's a big community scrape right outside of some doe bedding. You're like, oh, I can get on the downwind side of this and hunt it. Okay, well, don't go in there October 1st and hunt that spot. Like, make sure you prioritize the good spots for the rut during the rut and don't touch them until then. And then if you can find, hey, there's a bunch of white oaks here, there's some rubs in the area that are old, there you can really tell that they were from September or early October, um, and be like, okay, there's some good bedding. There's good bedding next to these white oaks. Right outside of the bedding, there's the patch of white oaks. There's some buck sign around it. Hey, this is probably a good early season spot. And then mark that as, I'm going to hunt that the first week of October, or whenever your season opens. Whatever classified as early season, and then your scouting that you're doing right now maybe correlate to late season a little bit. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's one thing that a lot of guys make a big mistake on, is they hunt their best spots in the time when the best spots aren't actually their best spots. And that's something to really think about, is why are the deer why are the deer making this sign, and is it going to be conducive to killing them during season in certain times?
Yeah. I think that's really good advice because for anyone that's newer, it's fairly easy to be, yeah, exactly what you just said. Like, I feel like a lot of people fall into that trap, or
Yeah,
you go into an area that was tore up with rubs and all this different rut sign, and obviously maybe there's a buck nearby, and then the type of habitat is, it changes. Fall is just a season of change. Like, it's there's
yeah,
so many changes throughout that 2 month period or 3 month period where, I yeah, I can recognize that as well. Are you as far as like, are you keeping detailed notes? Are you using Onyx and like, or whatever mapping software, and actually dropping waypoints, or like keeping track of your track, or taking like,
yeah.
because I feel like I am guilty of this. I'll just walk, and I probably walk too fast sometimes, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll remember that. Oh yeah, I'll remember that, and then it's gone. It's gone forever out of my mind until I'm there
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah, I keep a pretty good, and I use this my Onyx app and keep notes. I take inside the Onyx. I don't have like a notebook that I keep stuff in. I
Hmm.
wish I kind of did sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty jealous of those guys that like have recorded all their sits and stuff to go back and look on. But on Onyx, there's a feature where you can drop a pin. I always I like to, like, if I use green a lot, and that green is like, I like this, like, green is go to me, whatever.
Okay. Yeah, I like it.
Um, and and I'll put a green uh tree stand or a green bedding area. Like, I'll try to kind of make me a little plethora of green spots right there.
Hmm.
And they got a feature where you can take a picture of whatever you saw on Onyx. So, like, you drop a pin, go in and edit it, and then you can add a picture to it. So I always take a picture of what I'm looking at, whether it be a scrape, the tree I want to set in. And then something else that's a good tip for, new folks, or not even new folks, just anybody really, is like, really think about your access into these areas too. Whenever you're coming in and out, and like, think about, hey, these deer are probably going to be laying here, bedding down here. Can I get in here without spooking them?
Mhm.
And think about the wins you want to get on, and that's all the stuff um, I log inside my Onyx on that pin I drop. So like if I drop a tree stand pin, I'll put a note in there about the wind direction needs to be on, and take a picture of the tree. And then
I think
yeah,
that's
I
great.
think I don't always put a track on. Whenever I'm going into the first sit, I'll because a lot of times when you're scouting, you're not like going from the truck to the route you're going to go to hunt. You're kind of zigzagging everywhere. But I do always, if I got a spot that I really like, I'll track myself walking in the way I want to go, and that way too. Like a lot of times, I'll have buddies that come hunt with me or something, and I can shoot them a track to where hey, this is the best way of getting in this spot so they don't, end up in a
Detouring.
bunch of greenbrier or something.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say to someone, I'm gonna shoot you a dry mess or a cold message here, Josh. Hey, Josh, I had a really crappy season. I'm really frustrated. I felt like I scouted a lot, I hunted a lot, and it was still just not what I wanted or what I expected. What do you tell that person? Because I think there's a lot of people in this category right now.
Yeah, welcome to deer hunting. Um,
That's a fair answer, honestly.
yeah. Yeah, it's like, dude, it's not like most of the time it sucks. There's
Right.
And that's a bad part about social media is like we get access to all these great hunters all the time. You see Andy May and Johnny Stewart kill $5 a year, and it's like
Hmm.
those guys are outliers, dude. Don't put yourself in that category. As egotistical as us hunters are, like you're not those guys. Like
Yeah.
nobody is.
Yeah.
They are the cream of the crop. Or Don Higgins, whatever your Don
Yeah.
Higgins, Blue Lakoski,
Yeah.
you know, spook span, it's like it's not this like most people are in that category where they struggle. I struggled this year. In Indiana, I saw like 6 deer all October, and then I got lucky and saw the right one in November 3rd. But like it's not uncommon to struggle. I mean, last year I didn't kill a deer in Indiana. Like I didn't get an opportunity at a buck in Indiana last year. Um, so I think people they're pretty hard on themselves. The only thing you can really do is put your head down and go find 5 new spots that are going to give you more options, so you don't run out of options.
Yeah.
My buddy Jordan this year, we had EHD really bad in our area that we hunt here in the county I live in, and he struggled in October. Like he didn't see a deer in October, I don't think. And he just put his head down. He's like, okay, I'm going to go to 2 counties south of here and start pounding some public I've never been on. And I'm like, yeah, I think you got to. And he ended up killing a buck down there.
Hmm.
Um, so I think we give up pretty fast on ourselves. And then also like you just some seasons it's just like that.
Yeah, I think it's okay. I was in Iowa. I drew a late muzzleloader tag for Iowa, and I was out there when this goes live, probably 2 weekends ago. And obviously Iowa is revered as what it is, but it wasn't. I did not bring up this point, but someone's like rattled off like 7 really great deer hunters that are very dedicated that work year round, and he's like, so and so didn't shoot a buck, so and so didn't shoot a buck, and like the list went down. I was like,
Yeah.
dang, when you really put it in that perspective. It's okay. It's okay to have
Yeah.
a tough season, man. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's normal.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not to keep bringing up. I really enjoyed your podcast with Lee Lakoski that
Yeah.
you did. Um, there was a couple years ago where he didn't kill his buck until like the December or something.
Mhm.
And that guy,
Year round,
yeah.
nonstop
And
working.
also, he's passing deer that me and you'd shoot, but like,
100%. And that's usually a
um,
lot of times what it's rooted in for sure.
yeah. But anyway, I, I really, I really think, he made a good point too about, oh, I don't know, this might be a little off topic, but I, uh, I don't know. I gained a lot of respect for Lee from listening to him talk to on your podcast. But like, talking about we're all just chasing the feeling, that we want to feel, like the excitement. And you know, the guy in northern Wisconsin or the UP that, is wants to kill a 100-inch deer, and that's what he's excited about. That's what we're all trying to do, whether that be Lee Lakoski that has to kill a 200-inch deer to feel that,
Mhm.
or the guy in the UP that wants to kill a 110-inch deer to fill that. And I think that's something that we have to like realize too when it comes to wherever you're at in your hunting journey, whether that be you're a guy that is like Fred Eichler and gets just fired up about killing a deer and with a longbow, whether that be a doe or a 4 point, or are you Lee Lukoski that you got to kill a big one? Like it's not that those two people are any different or any um, one's better than the other. It's just that they're chasing a feeling that they want. You know?
Yeah. It's all well, I think there's two things with that. Completely agree. And I also think that we all think we're probably across the board. We all think we're probably a little better than what we really are. Like
Oh
as
yeah, dude.
hunters, like, oh no, yeah, like and that's in many facets of life too. Like,
Yeah,
oh, I can be an outlier this, I can be an outlier that, and I'll just figure it out. And I think that's a great attitude to have too. But you also have to have some self awareness of like,
yeah. Some humility.
yeah, I don't
Um,
know.
yeah, that some of that stuff comes with with age too. I guess you just get a little bit like you don't really care to. Um, you're more realistic of what your abilities are, or your expectations of yourself, and how you know what you have to prioritize. And then one thing I've learned too is like a lot of these guys that are that way, they've made some sacrifices that most of us aren't willing to make.
Yeah,
And they probably have some parts of their life that you would be like, screw that, I don't want that.
yeah.
Not
When
that not that I mean,
Go
I'm
ahead.
not talking about anybody specific, so don't
Yeah.
take it that way. But like, I know about every good deer hunter in the country, and some of them you're like, I wouldn't trade what he's doing right now for what I got going on.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah. That's crossed my mind too. It's like when you zoom out a little bit and it's
yeah,
like, there, there is more to life to deer hunting, but it is the centerpiece of mine for
it
sure.
is. Yep, yep, yep.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. What's been one of your biggest evolutions as a hunter in the last like 3 or 4 years that, I feel like you have a high level of self awareness and like willing to try different things and be
Yeah.
adaptive. But what's one evolution that has stuck out to you as you maybe reflect on the last couple of years?
Yeah, so the biggest thing for me is, gaining more patience in the deer woods and not having this, like, anxiety of having to kill a deer, I guess, and that's really helped me kill some bigger deer the last couple years, um, to where kinda before I had this, like, feeling of and this was not because I was on the internet. This has been my feeling since I've been 12 years old. Like I had this feeling of I have to kill a buck, I have to kill a buck. And I would, it was to a detriment to me to where I'd make a lot of mistakes because I would get in a hurry or feel like my opportunity was dwindling away fast. And if I wasn't here right now, kind of like what I was talking about, giving new people tips is, this feeling of, oh, there's a big buck in here. I have to go hunt it right now. Um, and I've gotten to know Andy May pretty well and talked to him a decent amount. And that's something that he is like that. What he is good at is like striking whenever you need to strike, and you know, not hunting all the time, but hunting when you need to be there.
Mhm.
And that's something that the last couple of years have gotten tremendously improved on tremendously. Was like, okay, that buck I killed this year, like in the past I've ran cameras in it's a little bitty 40-acre farm, mostly a field, and it just has a river and a little, string of woods around the river. And it's like I had a camera in there. There's never deer in there until the first week of November, and you have a week and the deer in there, and then they're kind of gone again.
Mhm.
Um and I mean, as far as bucks go, there's always does in there, but um and so this year I just waited until November 3rd, whenever the wind was right, and I went in there and killed a buck. Whereas in past years, I might have like, I'm going to sneak in there October 15th and see what's in there. And then it's like, oh, then you may have screwed it up. You may have bumped the does out of there or something. Um, so that's what I think I've improved on the most, or like the aha moment was like, okay, especially last year, I learned a lot because I didn't kill a deer in Indiana, and I'm still here. Like I lived through it. I didn't
Mhm.
die because I didn't kill a deer, so it wasn't that big a deal.
You're still here.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's
Yeah.
not, and um, and then also if you don't kill one, like you get to hunt late season. You learn something there, and yeah, that's the biggest thing is like realizing that patience pays off more times than being in a hurry.
Mhm. I think, that's all yeah, decisions made out of desperation or, is decisions that made out of desperation of, like, make or break, make or break, make or break,
Yeah.
probably doesn't work in the longevity of that. And then, the other thought too is I feel a lot of people, and this is me sometimes too, think in just seasons versus multiple years or half decades
Yeah.
or decades of like your own progression or whatever the case may be. It's like
Mhm.
zoom out a little bit instead of thinking about 2 weeks,
Well,
like
and
this 2 weeks.
that's what I've learned a lot about watching, like, guys like Lee Lakowski and Don Higgins. Like, I consume a lot of, like, their content too. Like, I'm not just, like, this guy that's, like I hate those no, hate's the wrong word, but I get a little bit frustrated with these guys that think they have nothing to learn from anybody that doesn't hunt public, like,
Hmm.
I'm only watching the hunting public because that's how I hunt. It's like, okay, well, like, I've learned a lot from, like, Don Higgins, Lee, those other guys, Jeff Sturgis, like,
Hmm.
those guys are the big picture. Like, they are on a 10-year timeline thinking. Like, they really are.
Yeah.
Um, and that's helped me realize that too, like, have that mentality of, okay, what's gonna happen? What's our deer herd gonna look like in 2 years? If this buck is 3 now, what's the potential and how many of these do I have? And like assessing that with myself. And I'm not opposed to, I'm not, you know, I still will shoot a big 3-year-old if I if I feel like it's what I want to shoot. But like I've gotten a lot better of thinking about the big picture.
Yeah.
And that's just again just a product of patience.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably comes with some form of maturity. So I'm gonna go through some
Yeah.
rapid fire ones here.
Okay.
Most overrated hunting advice.
Oh geez, Jake.
I'm gonna grill you here, so this is your warning.
Overrated.
Most overrated hunting
Yeah,
advice.
I'm gonna do it. Hmm. I get a little annoyed with all the scent control stuff. Those things annoy me a lot. I think that's really overrated as far as the sprays and all that kind of thing. That's something that um I think probably the most overrated thing though, uh for me is my realization of the trail camera thing,
Hmm.
I had a buddy that started hunting 2 years ago, and he bought a bow, and he bought, a saddle set up, and, like, it was those 2 things, and the next question he had for me was like, "What trail camera should I buy? What cell camera should I buy?" I'm like, "I don't know." Like, "Let's go to the woods and, like, do some scouting first, man, and then you can if you wanna buy some cell cameras, you can."
Hmm.
Um, and I like I said, they are a great tool, but I think there is there's a big overrated aspect of them as far as what they're actually telling you.
Hmm.
And we talked about this earlier, but like
Well,
I think you gotta remember that 5% rule. Like this is only 5% of what's going on.
yeah, 5% still better than 0%, but
Yeah,
you're
and
exactly right.
yeah, and it is we talk a lot about these very minute things you can do to give yourself that percentage better chance, whether it be, getting better at shooting your bow or, being in better shape and those things that give you those little bitty, and that's one of those things with cell cameras that can be like give you a little bit of an edge,
Yeah,
but it's not 90% better. It's 5% better.
that's fair. Yeah. All right. Most underrated skill when it comes to hunting deer.
Mm, most underrated skill. Okay, here's a good one. This is going to be controversial and probably counterintuitive to what people would think I would say, but being able to shoot far.
Ooh, I love that. I love that.
Um, a lot of guys, I think I don't take this the wrong way or be offended by this, anybody listening, but a lot of guys that complain about people shooting deer too far, I think are the guys that pick their bows up the week before season and shoot 4 arrows. And then they're like, I can't shoot past 30 yards anyway. It's like, well, yeah, I know, but don't put those limitations on other folks.
Hmm.
Um, so I think that's uh, something that's a little bit, people get very, um, a lot of criticized, I think unfairly for far shots.
Hmm.
And, you know, it's a product of the internet, because I think again we see Levi Morgan or
John
Josh
Dudley or whoever.
Bomar
Yeah. Yeah.
or Lee Lakowski shoots some
Hmm.
deer far away, um, and when we like see that, and then the outcome of that is some guys that shoot their bows 4 times a year thinks that they're Lee Lukoski, or they had those unrealistic expectations of themselves. They think they're
Yeah,
the
they're better
outlier of the
better
bow
shot
shot.
than what they are. Yeah.
Yeah, and all of a sudden now they're trying to shoot a deer at 50 yards or 60 yards. But then you like zoom out and you're like, okay, let's look at Lee Lukoski for an example. He has a target at 100 yards that he shoots every single day. Like, do you do that every day?
Well,
No.
when we did the cribs, he has an archery range. I think it was 40 yards. It was 40 or 50 yards in his basement.
Yeah,
And he's like, well, you got to shoot your bow every single night after you get back in. Make sure nothing's off. Shoot it like
yeah. Nobody
shooting
does
every
that.
single day during the season, and built his house around the fact that you need to continue shooting your bow. And it's
Yeah,
like, how many
yeah,
people do that?
yeah. Well, I was talking to Andy May about just the deer he's killed, and um, I think he'd be okay with me saying this, but he's like, yeah, he's like, one thing that I have an advantage on is I'm a good shot. Like I can shoot deer pretty far away.
Hmm.
And that kind of like, I'm like, yeah, like on out of state hunts or something. Like I killed my deer in Kansas at 50 yards this year. If I would have, and um, I practiced all year. I got a 3D course in my backyard. Like I really spent
You're
time
dialed.
doing it and all that. So I think, you know, there's levels to this game, fellers, like when it comes to archery, and some people are on a different level. That's
Yeah.
for sure. Not saying I am at all.
Yeah.
Like that's my max for sure. But like, um, I think that's a good skill to have if you want to actually put deer on the ground. Now, if you're a guy that just wants to shoot them with a recurve bow inside 20 yards, that's really cool too, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a 30 and in guy, because
Yeah.
I don't practice all the time,
Yeah.
and I have enough self awareness to not shoot further than that.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Which
yeah.
yeah, which
So
when
I
you're
that
setting up, it's a lot harder because you're like 30 yards is really not that far when you're trying to pick a spot on the fly
yeah,
and like that trail, and but I think it can definitely be done. And then like some of I spent a decent amount of time with Don Higgins, and he's like, I'm 20 yards and in. Like I try to have,
yeah,
and like he can manufacture or like create opportunities where it is 20 yards, and so that makes total perfect sense too. So on the fly, like in the plains of Kansas, I get while it would be a major benefit to be more proficient at
yeah.
further distances.
Yeah, and there's always like I think I've heard Levi Morgan talk about this. Like there's a sweet spot. Like I think that 30 to 40 yards is a horrible distance to shoot at deer because they can
Hmm.
hear the bow, they can hear the arrow, they can hear all of it. If you get beyond that, they can't react as easily to it. And you got to be very aware of deer behavior and what their mindset is whenever you let the arrow go. You probably shouldn't, if they're looking at you and they're already doing one of these things, you probably shouldn't, let an arrow fly at 50 yards. But if they got their head down feeding, or they're in a CRP field looking at a doe, which was my scenario, it's you got a better opportunity of them being where their arrow is whenever it gets there.
Yeah. One habit you wish more hunters would drop.
Drop.
Yeah.
Mm, one habit. Let's see here. I'm trying to find what a habit is in my mind. Um, I mean, probably the one thing that people do that they shouldn't is like compare themselves to others. Um, that's a pretty bad habit. I don't know if that's what you're
No, I think
you're
that's a great answer.
referring to.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that would be my answer probably.
What's one? Or I'll ask you the inverse. One habit you wish more hunters would adopt. I know that might seem redundant, but maybe there'll be some difference with this answer.
Yeah, so I think something I think we all have to think about is like getting kids into hunting a little more, and like taking some time to take someone in your life that is young hunting and teaching them how to scout and all this. Because man, I don't know about you, Jake, but like every kid that I know that hunts, they're
In a box blind
they're in a box blind. Yeah,
over a food plot.
you
Didn't didn't
you took
didn't
the
sp-
words out of my mouth.
yeah, didn't spend more than 10 minutes on the ground
Yeah.
before season, and like,
Hmm.
oh, it's time to go. We're gonna
I think
spoon feed
our
this deer to you.
Yeah, I think our generation has a problem with instant satisfaction, and we're gonna push that on our kids to where we want them to have instant success, and then they're gonna grow up and not know what they're doing, and then just probably not hunt, because of it. And I don't know. I'm going to make a point this. If they're interested, I'm not going to force them to do it. But like my cousin has some boys that are high school age, and they've both the one of them's killed a bunch of deer, and the other one got a late start. Just didn't wasn't interested in it until he got into high school. And I'd like to get them out on some public land, and just they've never hunted outside their dad's 40.
Mhm.
Um, so I'd like to get them out and just go hunt public with them sometime. Let them kind of be able to spread their wings. They got their driver's license now and stuff like that. So that's something I think more people needed to do, and myself included. I'm not, I'm preaching to the choir here, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that it's probably been one of the biggest changes in hunting in the last 20 years that never really gets addressed. Like I'm sure you were the same way, like hunted from the ground, still hunted, like all the different variations of hunting other than what it is today for a lot of the youth, for sure.
Yeah.
Like everything but that was basically the style of hunting.
Yeah. I mean, when I was a kid, I don't know if anybody had box blinds. Like I mean, if you watch the outdoor, I mean, look at the changes in those guys like monster bucks and all those, like nobody was in a box blind back then. They're all
Yeah,
hunting out of tree stands and whatnot. Now it's, if you go to the outdoor channel and watch any of those guys now, it's box blinds.
they're
Or
efficient.
yeah, which is whatever, it's evolution of deer hunting, I guess. But
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, Josh, I've enjoyed this. I recently watched your traditional archery hunt there. You smoked that deer at 28 yards. That was an incredible
yeah.
shot. And yeah, it was awesome to see your reaction and joy and everything that happened. After the whole progression of that was really awesome. So if people want to watch or listen to Before the Echo, your show, where and how should they do that?
Yep. So over on YouTube is where I put most of my stuff out. My podcast goes up there a couple times a week, and then I got random hunting videos and whatnots on there. Do some gear stuff for folks, and then I'm on Spotify and Apple as well. And then
Uh,
I try to do good on Instagram and Facebook too. But yep,
you're one guy. You do a good job for one
exactly.
guy.
Yeah,
So awesome. Thank you so much, Josh.
yeah. Thanks for having me on, Jake.